Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this evening. I'm Shelley Stoddard. I'm the Director of FTC for First Chesapeake, and I'm excited to welcome 2068 FRC Team Metal Jackets to share with you what they've done for advocacy in order to get connected with their local government and work to promote robotics and STEM education in their community. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our presenters for this evening. Thanks so much for being here this evening.
Of course, thank you so much for having us. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ariana Sky Palmer, or Ari. I'm the Vice President and Business Lead for this year's season on the Team Metal Jackets.
I'm Michael Coludelis, and I'm the advocacy lead this year.
Yeah. So real quick, advocating and advocacy is just a really big thing for our team. It's to help make sure that we get the changes that we want to see in the world, in our community, and just everything in between. So yeah, a little background with our history and advocacy. We actually started our legislative advocacy journey back in 2018 for the Virginia High School League. And so what we did was we traveled to Richmond a few times during the year to advocate for robotics to be considered a Virginia high school varsity learning sport under the Virginia High School League. And this is really important to us, but in general, because it will allow for all robotics teams across the state to be recognized for their hard work and achievements throughout the year. And then more recently, last year and this year, over the past 2 years, we advocated for Senate Bill 5, formerly known as Senate Bill 806, in the Virginia legislature. And the bill was passed by both the House of Delegates and the senators, and was even signed by Governor Glenn Youngkin. In this bill, now law, what it would do is it would provide up to $10,000 of funding to Title I schools for their competitive STEM plus C programs, which would allow for underprivileged schools and underprivileged children and students to have more opportunities to pursue STEM and STEM education. So getting started with your journey of advocacy, really big thing is that you want to find a bill that either you or your team is heavily interested in, has a belief or holds near to a belief that you or your team holds, or that you or your team has a vested stake in. And then following that, the bill should relate to the missions of your organization in some way. Like just a quick example, Senate Bill 5 provide up to $10,000 of funding to competitive STEM plus C programs. And a core belief here at the Metal Jackets is that every student should have equal opportunity to STEM education, equal opportunity and access to it. And so just choosing the bill to advocate for the year, that really align. So just something like that, something that you and your team really stand for. Following that, research. You need to really research your bill so that way you know what you're talking about when you go and talk to your legislators. You know what you're there to do, and you're able to get your point across so smoothly. So first and most important, in my opinion at least, is to really read and understand the entirety of the bill and what the bill is talking about. So on the websites, like las.virginia.gov, when you choose your bill, there's the quick summary that lets you read what, like, the gist of the bill. That's not what you want. You want to make sure you read the full thing, because it is so beyond important to just really get the full scope, every bit of detail, so that way you know what you're talking about. After that, you want to analyze the bill and how it will benefit or create drawbacks within your community. And after that, you want to gather a lot of data, and just things like data on who it could affect, the geographical areas it could affect if applicable, and just any possible data that you can find. And this is really so you can make solid, concrete talking points when you're talking to your legislators, and whether it's in person in Richmond or whoever you're advocating to, or it's virtual through email or Zoom meetings. Plan out the bill. That's like number one thing after the research portion. Plan, plan, plan. You need to plan. So whether it's going to the House of Delegates or the Senator or the Senate, there's a million, it's not really a million, but it seems like a million different subcommittees or committees that it could go into. And so you need to really plan from day one, really, as to where it'll be introduced, the different committees, and then following subcommittees that it could be brought into. And like I just mentioned, you need to do this for both houses because there will there will most likely be a day where we'll see the other chamber. And so you need to make sure you have all the information possible. And then remember crossover day. Now, crossover day is where the bill will flip from one house to the other. So the bill will go from the House of Delegates to the Senate chamber or vice versa. And that's really big because you want to know whether it's before or after crossover day, like, okay, I need to go here and talk to XYZ about the bill. People search. We mentioned this in the last slide, the different committees and subcommittees. You need to go backwards from the most specific to the least specific people that could interact with the bill. And research every person on the subcommittee or just the committee, and just get as much information as you can on them. Things like their voting records, their issues, their prioritization of different things, whether it's controversial or uncontroversial, and just everything that you can possibly find. Message planning. Now, messages help you sell your case and sets the stage for your first impression. So, a very important thing that we do on our team is make different lists, just based on like different committees, subcommittees, House and Senate, just different lists on who you need to talk to in different prioritization charts almost as to where the bill would go to. And then draft your information. Uh, Now, this is what the information that you would most likely use in your messages to try and appeal to your senator or delegate that you are talking to. And then continuing the sending messages, keep your messages concise. When you're sending your emails, you don't want it more than a paragraph. We've heard this from so many legislators that we've talked to. If it's more than a paragraph, it's okay, I really need to read this, but there's a million other things that our legislators need to be doing. So paragraph, short, a really brief intro, the main body of what you're talking about, vote for this bill because, or don't vote for this bill because, and then sign off. That's all you really need, just a short paragraph. And like I just mentioned, a million other things. The legislators get multiple different emails that they also have to respond to. So yeah, paragraph max. And then a clear subject line. So like in the PowerPoint, vote yes on SB5 as an example, or vote no on, and then whatever your bill is. Just make it very as clear as possible, clear as daylight.
So
Planning
planning a day, it really starts. It's really essential on how you plan your day to meet with your legislators and your staff to get your point across. So the first thing that you really need to do when you're planning a day to go visit your legislators is to do logistics within your team. You need to understand who's going, when you guys are going, what the best time to go is. Many legislatures go into closed session after a certain time, and so that doesn't allow you to meet with them. But you really want to plan your day inside and out. You want to know exactly where you're going when, and this happened. You get more experience with the more times you do it, but you really need to know exactly where you're going. You need to get the room numbers, and you want to email the staff or the or the officials as soon as possible so they can check their schedule and you guys can find a time to meet. Um, it The legislators aren't always available for meetings with the team, so you want to find a time to try to meet with them. But if you can't, you you should meet with their legislative assistant or their chief of staff, because they're really that ear to that legislature. So going in with meetings, you really want to have your talking points memorized, and you want to encourage your team to develop their own. So with people going, some people have personal stories about how this bill would affect them or would have affected them. Some teams walk in with statistics. So you, it's a good thing to kind of have that statistical analysis with your own personal experiences. It really builds a sense of personal connection, so you can, empathize with the legislator and understand where they're coming from, and they can understand you, as well as it makes you more memorable. Also, if there's a committee or subcommittee meeting, you want to sit to talk to the entire committee. Besides meeting with them individually and making that impact on them, you can also talk to the entire committee or subcommittee, which, you go in there and it kind of shows how you kind of get to talk to the people that are making the decisions all together. And that really, allows you to, to make an impact on a larger scale, talking to everyone. So this is one of the only ways for all the people who will vote on your bill to hear what you have to say and your concerns. So now we have our guest speaker, Delegate Brianna Sewell from the 25th District of the Virginia House of Delegates. So I'll let her take it away.
Thank you so much, Michael. And I must say, Ari and Michael have done a fantastic job of discussing what it is like to best engage with your elected officials when you are advocating on behalf of a particular issue. As noted, I'm Delegate Brianna Sewell, and I'm so happy I can be with you this evening. In addition to the walkthrough examples of very pointed ways in which to engage with your elected officials, I just want to offer additional insight. So when you are scheduling that meeting to meet with your elected official, try to offer up not only times and opportunities to connect, but offer up some level of background understanding on that elected official and find a way in which you are able to connect with them. That is always so helpful. Once you go in for the meeting, we want to know a little bit about you. You're our neighbors, you're our constituents, you're a Virginian. You are who we have in mind when we are thinking of legislation that can provide the biggest impact for residents across the Commonwealth of Virginia or any other locality in which you are seeking to engage with. So whether it's the local, the state, or the federal level of government, we always want to know your story and what has led you to get involved. Once you decided to get involved, we also want you to share what that problem is. And most importantly, try to find a way to tell a story. We all have the ability to connect when we hear a story which presents that challenge. And even in the process of telling that story, oftentimes we're able to identify some additional challenges which can be addressed through legislation as well. Once you've told that story, present your desired outcome. If you don't tell us what you desire as an outcome, we'll come up with our own ideas. And sometimes we're not always solving the problem that you have brought forward. So make sure that you are very clear and concise on what you desire and offer to be of assistance throughout that legislative drafting process so that we can lean on you as a peer in that process to make sure that we are truly reaching the intended outcome. From there, ask questions. Make sure that we are also offering you the chance to offer additional feedback and showcase points of interest. And also request support. Make sure that you are requesting that we support that legislation. It's one thing to have a legislator carry a piece of legislation. It's something else for them to go to bat for you and to fight and truly believe in the outcome. And lastly, make sure you have a leave behind. It is always helpful to make sure that there is that quick summary, as Ari noted at the very beginning, of the issues at hand, but more importantly, the desired outcome. So yes, those emails are really important, but we never forget those individuals we have the chance to engage with in a private meeting. So make sure that you remain top of mind for that elected official by leaving them or their staff with some additional information. And throughout the legislative process, make sure that you ask, how can you best advocate in support of that bill? So Michael offered a really good example of making sure that you show up to a subcommittee or a full committee meeting as a way to engage with everyone who will be addressing that particular issue or have the chance to vote on it. But you also want to make sure that you know what the next steps are in that process. Sometimes that means building unlikely coalitions and identifying some other supporters in the area who may also be interested in your desired outcome, but may not be the individual who comes to top of mind. And then, when in doubt, never be afraid to ask. We're here to represent you. We serve because you have afforded us the opportunity to do so. And with that, I will turn it back over.
Thank you so much, Delegate Sewell. That's really important, and I appreciate your input as a legislator about what you want from an advocacy group, about what you want to get out of meetings and what's important to everyone, and how to connect with those local grassroots organizations to be able to form a coalition or a block of supporters that will really help your bill get through with support from both sides, because STEM and education is really a bipartisan issue. So
Absolutely. Totally nonpartisan.
Just adding on to Michael's gratitude, I'm personally so appreciative of you and your input that you've been able to provide today. We know that our team and everyone else in the First Chesapeake community is so grateful. Your input and advice is so valued for us personally, but also other teams across the district to be able to continue or even start their advocacy journey. And we just really appreciate and value you so much.
Well, you all are truly an inspiration to me and so many others across the Commonwealth. So keep up the great work.
Thank you. So finishing up, you want to distribute the wealth. So as I said before, if you're an FRC team, a first team that is working on the side of education or STEM education, you really want to meet with people of differing opinions, sides and perspectives. So you want to be able to reach as many people as you can, and you can't do that when you're only meeting with a few people that are safe, that you've talked to, because advocacy is not just about reinforcing the idea for those who will support it, but it's also about changing people's minds. There are about 1,000 probably bills going through the legislature, so sometimes they'll get lost in translation, and so you meeting with them and you sending those emails and leaving something behind that can really push some people over the edge about your bill. So you really want to distribute that wealth and allow for everybody to have for you to advocate to, because it's very important. So next is the public follow-up. So in addition to meeting with your legislators, you also want to build a strong following of these grassroots organizations and other supporters. So you can use social media, petitions, letters, opinions in the newspapers, and events that you attend to spread your message. So social media, you can post something. I know that we've done that. And so that kind of gets the ball rolling about, oh, what's this? As people are curious about what you're doing. So our petitions, you want to have just beyond you. You want to show your legislators and the people making decisions, whether it's on the local, state, or federal level, that you are not the only ones that want this, that there are hundreds or possibly even thousands of other people that want this bill to be passed. So really that cooperation between constituents and people really helps get your message out. And it's a really big talking point when you can say, more than 1,500 people want this bill. They have signed a petition saying so, especially when you go and you present those in front of a legislature or, during meetings. Um, Opinions in the newspaper is the same thing. It's just allowing you to get your message out and what you want to happen within your local or local, state, or federal government. You want people to know. So that's really another way of doing so. An event that you attend, there are a bunch of first teams that will go to picnics or parades or STEM days in their community, and they can go and help reach more people, because advocacy really thrives with that human touch and that human interaction. So when you go and you talk to people face to face and say, well, this is why we're supporting it, it adds a touch of humanity to those emails or to that social media post. And you also want to use your personal and team connections to build up First as an advocacy group. First has different awards, the Impact Award, the Engineering Inspiration Award. So they really that really allows you to showcase what you've done, especially in advocacy. But to start, you really want to use your team name. I'm Michael of the 2068 Metal Jackets. You really want to use your team and personal connections to say, well, this is why I am a little qualified to speak on it. So that really helps you just make people understand it as a person and not just, reading an email that with the subject line, vote yes or support this. The next thing is to follow your bill. There are, as said by Danica Roem, a Virginia senator, which we met, they've come to our kickoff. There are 1,000 ways to kill a bill and only a few to keep it going. So you really want to keep up with your bill, even if it's not, even if it doesn't pass. That is really important that you follow it and say, well, this is why it needs to pass this next time, because this is what it does. We have used that process with Senate Bill 5, Senate Bill 806. It got tabled from the previous year and it got brought back, which was and we were very excited to do that because it allowed us a second chance to understand and to use that bill and to talk to more people. It allowed us some more time to refine our way about which we went about getting SB 806 passed, and it allowed us to refine that and get it to pass both chambers and get signed. But the main point is to keep up with your bill until it's signed by the governor or passed. You want to keep those emails up. You want to keep, phone calls or these meetings as much as you can, because, as Delegate Sewell said, they listen to their constituents, and your voice, especially as a collection of constituents, is really important to them, because one voice is important, but when you have multiple, it's really hard to ignore that or forget about it, especially when your team has some really, really bright shirts. So in closing, no matter if it's passed or not, thank those who you met with and those who supported it. They are your stepping stones. They are a friend. They will help you in every way possible, because it's very you want to thank them because of what they did, no matter if it passed or not, because it's you just want to say thank you with their help. So even if it failed, you need to use the time that you have between legislative sessions to garner even more support, to bring it back next time and to pass it. So that's what we did again with our bill. Um, we took we took that time. We refined our strategy about how we were going to reach out to legislators, what we were going to say, how we were going to, you know, make sure that the positive points of the bill were going to be very, very exaggerated, shall I say, and to get more sponsors, all the way from the local school board all the way up to the federal level. You know want the local support those people in the state, and the state support the federal, and it just keeps going, and it can go from local to federal or federal to local, but it really helps to get people along that chain, to get your support, because if you can say, we met with, someone specific, Tim Kaine, let's say, it really gives you that kind of, that ethos, or that kind of authority about what you're talking about, and showing people why it's important. Um, and so that's what you need to do, especially if it failed. But you should not let that deter you. So finally, advocacy never ends. So you want to build on your relationships. You need to invite them to your events. It's very, very important, especially if you're inviting them to a competition. It shows your legislators, um, what you guys do, for fun, and it really, especially if you bring them to an event with a lot of like-minded people there. So a competition where everyone supports that bill, that's an overwhelming show of support, and they can really take that back to their office, and to um, Richmond, and to talk to their colleagues, and to really tell them that this support is, not just this one team in this one area. It's these hundreds of teams, um, all across Virginia. So especially if you're inviting them to events, um, there are some legislators that would prefer formal situations, but most, from personal experiences, prefer casual. So definitely try to break that barrier down. Um, they are a person, so you want to talk to them with that authority and experience, but you also want to give them, you need to make them feel like they um, are a person, and they're just here checking out this team, because you know they're just a person there, and uh, yeah. So definitely try to break that barrier down. A lot of them prefer casual, so it's just, you really want to make sure that everyone has a fun time at the end of the day, because if they have fun, they're more likely to remember it and take that down and make some decisions with your energy. So, and that's all that we have. Thank you. Any questions?
So that was tremendous. There's so much information that you just shared. I am so impressed with the high level knowledge that you all have. I have a few questions, so I'm just going to throw those out there if it's okay. My first question is, given how you've mapped all this out and laid it out for the community at large who's watching, how did you all as a team learn what these steps are? How did that come to pass?
So that really started back in 2017, 2018. Our former president, Jack Palmer, he really started that, um, getting us to an advocating team. So he sent a bunch of emails and met with delegates and senators on the state level to get robotics to be considered a varsity sport under the Virginia High School League. So that really helped us get started, and from there we just ignited all of our knowledge and took that from and used that from other teams as well. So when we go to competitions, we'll go have conversations, and we'll go and really use our community as first, to really build and get more knowledge. And so definitely after 2 years, we've sort of found our way around. So that was, we'll have to thank everyone that we met with across those 2 years for their time.
Yeah, and just adding on to what Michael said. So as we just mentioned, building close relationships with everyone you come across with, but especially your legislators, is just so beyond important. And so a close relationship that we have is with Senator Danica Roem. And over the past 2 years, I believe, she's come to our kickoff celebration that we host at our school. And she's actually come and taught both, or mainly our business team, but then just our team in general, about everything that is so beyond important to hit and target when you want to properly advocate for a bill. So like everything that we covered here today, we learned across the years, with a lot of it being from Senator Danica Roem herself.
That's super helpful. Another thing that you highlighted at the start of your presentation was that it sounded like, if I'm understanding correctly, you choose a bill each season or each year to follow, and support, or I guess potentially reject if there's one out there that you don't want to pass. How do you guys as a team choose the bill you're going to follow and support and or reject?
So that usually starts from our advocacy sub team. So that team works together a bunch of bills. So all the way from ordinances to proclamations to Senate, to bills and resolutions, all the way up to the federal level. So we really start that and gain a collection of things that we want to support and or reject. We usually go to the ones. We usually focus on the ones that we want to support, because just having that, um, having a happy face when you walk in, and saying, well, we want you to support this, that really helps get it across. Where, if you're walking in saying, yeah, like, we don't want you, you're kind of walking in with a little bit of a closed mind and just a very, very strict, talking script. Whereas, you walk in supporting a bill and you can just go off on a tangent. If that legislator wants to, and it really allows for a more like fluid conversation, as to where it's just a meeting, which, like I said in the slides, that really helps break down that formal barrier, um, and makes it more casual. So as a team, we decide, we get that list of bills, and then we have, we bring it to the team, we bring it to our mentors, and then we evaluate it, all of them line by line, discussing what would this support, what goes best with our mission, and which would be the most effective to advocate for. We still support multiple bills, but it's really just something where you have to kind of decide, with the business team, but throughout the entire team as well, about what you want to support, why you want to support it, and how you're going to go about doing that.
Yeah, just building off of that real quick, touching on what Michael just said, bills, we'd like to choose bills that really align with our ideals, our beliefs as a team, and just what we really find important. Like the past 2 years, advocating for Senate Bill 5, providing a lot of money for competitive STEM teams. And then this year, more recently, we advocated for a bill that would have Title I, or not just Title I, but all elementary and secondary schools to provide free breakfast for their students. And while it isn't inherently STEM, it is going on to continue support in providing more resources for Title I schools and underprivileged students. And that's and just finding bills that really hit home for your beliefs and what you stand for. It's really visible when you go to advocate for it. Like whoever you're talking to is really able to see the the genuine happiness behind your smile, the sincerity behind your emotions, and the passion behind what you feel. It's just really visible when you choose something that you firmly stand for. And so that's just another thing that we like to consider when choosing our bills for the season.
That's tremendous. So hopefully we get a lot of mentors watching this. And so I'm going to pivot over to Miss Carol as one of your coach and mentors, and just ask, as the person, the adult leading the charge here, what is your advice to mentors and coaches out there who've not really broken into this space to get started?
I think it's really important for the coaches and adults that are working with the students, FTC, even FLL, and of course FRC. The children have a voice too, and I think that's really important. And I'm not sure if all the adults think, oh, it's only adults that can do this. It is not. It is. They are still the same constituents that will come to the House and the Senate. They still have those relationships that could be built with that. So having the students come up with the bills, so they sit down and they make a list of what bills they were passionate about, and then those are the ones they focus on, right? So I love how my kids figure out what bills they want to focus on, and then they build their own relationships. They figure out who the subcommittee is and who's on, where's it going next, and they reach out to people who aren't even our senators and delegates and make appointments with them because they are also voting for them. So I think it's really important for them to build their relationships and their partnerships through other senators and delegates will come to events that our kids are at, my team is at, and they don't belong to Prince William County. That's where our team is based, because our kids have met with them and sat with them, and they remember them, and they do know our yellow and blue shirts, and they're pretty bright, and we have a few already distributed through the Senate and House, but let the kids have a chance to have their voice told. I think that's really important. Like they may be young, but they still have a voice that can be heard and can make a change. That's a big thing, right? These kids can make a change, and they are doing that. Not just our team, but the partnerships we have with other FRC teams in First Chesapeake, all going together for the same. It's better when you can do it together, and it makes it a stronger group going together, everyone having the same words. It's been fantastic for me as a person in STEM to see the political side of it is really exciting. It changed some of my views on that. So I hope that answered your question.
That's great. So final question for Delegate Sewell. I would like to know, if I'm brand new as a coach and mentor and team, and I've watched this video and like I'm ready to do something, what would be your guidance for someone who has no experience whatsoever to get the attention of their delegate or their senator or representative, whether it be local, state, or federal?
Great question. Well, I would encourage them to just reach out to our offices. In my office, we oftentimes say that our doors are always open, and that means literally and just meaning that truly, if I don't answer the phone, a member of my staff will. So we are happy to answer phone calls, answer and respond to text messages, answer and respond to emails. And by no means do you have to ask for anything. It truly can just be an informational interview, or even just be honest with us and say, we don't understand the legislative process. Where do we begin? Oftentimes we have the relationships as well with our colleagues serving at the local or the federal level of government. So we're all in this process together. But most importantly, I would remind that mentor or that teacher or that sponsor that in elected office, we have a saying, nothing about us without us. And you have to realize that we as legislators are subject matter experts on so many different issue areas. Most importantly, that particular sponsor, that teacher, that mentor, but most importantly, those students are truly the subject matter experts when it comes to legislation and the impact it has on them. So let them know that we need them more than they need us truly in this process, so that we can truly create effective change. So I hope that that will ensure that they feel as much and entitled to this process as anyone else.
That's fantastic. Well, I cannot thank you all enough for coming this evening. This has been incredibly informative. And I know that our community in First Chesapeake, but even the broader community that tunes in, will really get a lot of information from watching this. And I hope that it leads to more relationship building and more advocacy for the greater good of all the community. Thank you so much, Metal Jackets. Thank you, Delegate Sewell, for coming this evening. And go get involved, First Chesapeake. Get out there and do something.